Hello and welcome to the Say Report, the show where one of the hosts feels like Thriller, Human Nature, sounds like elevator music. It's not me,
Whoa,
I'm
whoa,
Devon
whoa.
Decker.
Okay, I'm seated Sarwick, and I don't believe that either. Hold on a minute. But when you're piping through to me only the synthesized guitar part, it sounds to me like somebody playing Muzak versions of Thriller, all
That's
right?
even
Like,
crazier that it's... Well, I was playing the karaoke track. That's what I was listening to so that I
mm.
could, like, see it. Can I sing Human Nature? Am I the Thriller? Is Michael Jackson the Thriller?
I don't think that he was the Thriller. I think that, like, I think listening to it is, like, thrilling, like this. I think it's a description of the album. It is Thriller. It is, I don't know, man.
I think he's the Thriller. I think you're wrong on this one. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Say Report.
It's not like when a zombie apocalypse comes, it's like, look out for the thrillers. This isn't like The Walking Dead where the word zombie doesn't exist.
No, but he's only a zombie in the Thriller music video. I feel like in that Michael Jackson Thriller, like it's a title.
Yeah, but like,
His
yeah,
title
exactly.
is Thriller.
I don't know. You don't
So
think the rest of
he's
the album, though, is like, all right.
I know two songs off of it. I know
I don't know.
Thriller
I find
and I
it
know
very
Human
thrilling.
Nature. It's thrilling that it's like the #1 record forever.
What's going on, Devon?
Not
What are
much,
you doing today?
Siegin. You know what I'm doing today? I took 30 days off of Zelda, right?
Yeah,
My self-imposed ban on Zelda ended on
and
the
here we
1st
are.
of July. I've
Yep.
already played 3 new Seeds of Zelda through to completion.
Excellent. Oh man. Well, we were all waiting for it, so I'm glad it's back.
Oh,
I'm
man,
so
I'm
glad
so
you're
happy
back on
that
your
it's
Zelda
back.
train.
Oh, but dude, and the crazy
Right
thing
back
is
on that
like,
spirit track.
boo,
No,
terrible
hooray,
game,
hooray, yes,
boo.
hooray.
I'm the Wind Waker
So you've
again.
been playing through. How's it been going? What do you like? Have you been doing some more of these randomizers, speed runs? What have you been up to?
So I'm just doing randomizer again because in the time that I've taken off, they've gone from like version 17 of the randomizer to version 24.
Man,
And
it's the internet age, man. You walk away for even a moment, and suddenly you're out of touch.
exactly. What a dick. I don't know how to respond to what you just said. But yeah, it's yeah, so like now you can change your sprite, like one of the ones I played through as Zelda, which like really just feels like the pinnacle. Like I feel like
Yeah.
you can go no further than that because whenever you played Zelda as a kid, you called Link as Zelda, right?
Yeah.
I want to say
Or if
like
you were an 80-year-old woman, but yeah.
yeah, I mean like 80-year-old women still call him Zelda. It's like when you're like before double digit age, you're playing the
Right.
Legend of Zelda games, he's Zelda. And then you
Mhm.
hit 10 and it's like, oh no, Zelda's the chick.
Yeah.
Who's this guy?
When you actually are able to like get to the end of the game and realize, oh wait a minute, Zelda's been the princess all along, and your mind is like blown.
Yeah, blows your mind.
What if Link was the princess all along? Oh man, now I'm thinking about things.
As long as Ganon is the bad guy in all universes, I'm okay with it. But then like there's also great stuff where you're playing as Zelda where you rescue Zelda, so you're escorting Zelda. It's just good times. And you can also play as like a Boo. So I'm gonna do a game where I play as a Boo from Super Mario World.
That's
And you
amazing!
can
Oh
play
my
as
god, what is
Samus.
Boo doing up in Zelda Land?
He's
Like
a ghost.
probably got lost somewhere along the way, right? Like Zelda and Mario exist in the same universe, don't they?
Oh, they 100% do because like well, first of all, Super Mario Brothers and The Legend of Zelda were developed at the same time. So
Mhm.
that's why like Pokebos, the stupid spinning fire things,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
exist in Super Mario Brothers because they were working on them in Zelda and they're like, we need to test this in a 2-dimensional scape. So, oh, well, throw them in Bowser's castles. That's fun.
So, like, is Zelda timeline-wise, like, is that like a past or a future of Mario's world? Like, somewhere along the line in Zelda, do you go into a temple somewhere and there's just like ancient carvings of like a dude in overalls jumping on top of a turtle?
If I had to guess, if I were going to venture a guess, I think that the difference is like continental. There we go.
Oh, all right.
Because there are photos of Peach and Mario and Luigi in Ocarina of Time, which is the like beginning of the whole series, right? I think
Right,
Minish
right.
Cap might take place before it now, but nobody really likes Minish Cap, so let's not talk about it.
Yeah.
I don't like Minish Cap, right? Like if you like Minish Cap, I'm not judging you. I'm just saying.
We're not diminishing you. Boom.
Bam. But yeah, so I feel like they are existing within like it's a different continent, and the Hyrulean continent sort of stayed the way that it is, like with its castles and its magic and all of that, and
Right?
then the Toadstool Kingdom. What do they call the Mushroom Kingdom? The Mushroom Kingdom grew up independent of that. So like there's still magic and there's still castles and everything, but they have indoor plumbing.
Yeah, and then eventually, as we see, we end up having, full-on cities and lawyers,
That's it. I
all
think
sorts of
that's a
things, as we
different
learned from the
universe.
Super
I
Mario
think
Brothers
Super
movie.
Mario Odyssey is a different universe. Oh, you're going to Super Mario Brothers movie. Exciting stuff. Exciting stuff. Voodoo Mambo.
I gotta say, man, with all of the stuff that's been coming out with Super Mario Brothers Odyssey, I'm pretty sure that they're making the movie canon.
I want that to be the case. I honestly do. I would be great. I love the movie. I love the movie. I don't care. Super Mario Brothers the movie. Go watch it. It may have ended everyone attached to its careers,
Except for
like
John Leguizamo.
and Bob Hoskins.
So to see, not everybody, and Dennis Hopper. Yeah,
Yeah, like
everybody survived that movie pretty well.
production side though. Well, like can we just like break down like timeline stuff because we're doing timelines and it's fun. Bob Hoskins did Hook, and he followed up Hook with Super Mario Brothers.
Clearly, in that like family movie phase that every aging actor eventually goes through.
Dennis Hopper played Koopa, King Koopa Bowser.
Right.
Followed that up with Speed,
Okay, he was going in a different direction.
which is a lot of fun if you think of it as like the backstory of his character in Speed is that he is King Koopa stuck in our world.
Oh my God, I love John Leguizamo as Luigi, but can you imagine Keanu Reeves as Luigi? That would be
I know.
amazing.
It's just, the thing is that like John Leguizamo as Luigi is the reason that right now we are still talking about Super Mario Brothers. Also, I just wanted to throw out Samantha Mathis. She was in Broken Arrow with Christian Slater. Followed that up, Super Mario Brothers. Like you were on a pretty good career trajectory, Samantha Mathis.
Oh man.
But she's still acting and stuff. She's still doing stuff. I don't know what Leguizamo did after Super Mario Brothers. To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar was 3 years later. So there has to have been a movie between them.
And the pest was after that,
The
right?
Pest is
As
like,
we talked about the other
my
day.
follow-up to Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar. I'm going to be the Pest.
Yeah. Well, he had to get in on some of that Jim Carrey money. Like he saw what he was doing with Ace Ventura and stuff, and he's like, I could do that for 2 hours.
Do you want to have your mind blown? Can I blow your mind? Please allow me to
Okay.
blow your mind.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ace Ventura, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber all released in the same year.
Whoa. No way.
94.
Is that true?
94,
That's insane
brother.
to me.
Think about it. Like, you don't think about it until you think about it. I'm fairly certain, like, I was going through his credits, and I'm like, oh my god, all of them were 94? No. But I feel like they were.
I mean, it makes sense for me in my lifetime that they all would have been in that same time period because, like, it was just about that time when I was allowed to start, like, thinking about PG-13 movies, and, his style of comedy even then was immature, right? So, like shooting towards the younger side of a PG-13 rating.
Yeah.
It definitely would have fallen into the same year. Man, that's insane.
It's insane to think about it,
So,
right?
like, well, that's like the highlight of his career, like, right? Like all three of those movies are like the movies people think of when they think of him.
And then follows
and
it up
stuff,
with Batman
like,
Forever.
Well, Batman Forever is seen as that moment when, like, maybe he's taking things too far. Like, it's still acceptable as a role. Like, you watch it and you're like, oh yeah, this is Jim Carrey doing his Jim Carrey thing. But there's that question at the end of it of like, is this the last time I'm willing to put up with this? And for a lot of people, it was.
100% I believe that Batman Forever is when Tommy Lee Jones siphoned off his popularity and was able to turn it into Men in Black. Come here, Jim Carrey. That's
You see, though, that's
Jones.
another example of an aging actor doing the family movie thing. You know what I mean? Like Batman Forever totally aimed at, like, kids and parents, and then like going and doing the Men in Black series was definitely, there's something where you hit that moment in your career, I guess, as an aging actor where you're just like, you know what I want to do for a while? I want to do something that I can bring my grandkids to.
Or I just want to get paid And you
Well,
know
also
what?
that.
Everyone can go to a children's movie.
Yeah, but let me look at it this way. Tommy Lee Jones didn't get beatboxed to at a post office for the paycheck. There had to be a kid involved somewhere along the line that was like, "I want you to keep doing this movie,"
I feel
and he
like
was just
Barry
like, "All right,
Levinson's had
grandson."
something on him. Like he's like, I got something on you, Tommy Lee Jones. Act in my Alien movie.
Oh man.
I like this world that we're building. Oh, this is fun. CJ, it's fun to talk to you. And earlier than usual.
So for anybody that's keeping score here, we should probably talk about how we're doing things a little weird for ourselves today, recording a little early, all that sort of stuff.
Well, that's why the episode
Because
is
it is in
called The
fact the
Early
holiday. We
Report.
are recording for 4th of July. Woohoo!
Woo! Independence!
Yeah,
Also with Will
America.
Smith.
Yeah, I am also. I just want to make sure that all bases are covered here. And in full disclosure, I am also not recording in my usual studio space, as I like to call it lovingly. I am currently sitting on the floor of my girlfriend's apartment, talking into a phone headset.
Wow. Thanks for telling me that before we started recording, because I'm like, man, he usually sounds much better.
Yeah, there's you're hitting that point in my life where I think I'm moving on, so I'm starting to pack my house up and move, and part of that also means hey, not having internet anymore over there and things like that.
Do you now live on the floor of your girlfriend's apartment?
Yeah, I've got a laptop sitting right here in front of me, and I'm talking into an iPod headset.
You sound
So
pretty
yeah,
good,
that,
I'm
that
not going to
explains the
lie.
quality
It's
and
a
all that
little
sort of stuff.
hollow.
So if anybody's wondering what's going on this episode, things are probably going to be a little awkward for the next month or so as I kind of get myself together. Moving is hard, man. Moving is really hard.
I wouldn't know. Every time that I've moved, like, to go live somewhere, I've treated it like summer camp. So,
Yeah.
like, I pack up a real big bag, and then I'm like, I got everything I need. And if I don't, I can get it from another camper. Like, going to work for Carnival Cruise Lines, I'm like, I think this is what I need. It wasn't. It wasn't what I needed.
I'm gonna go spend 6 months at sea. See if I don't need if I don't have it, I can maybe find it somewhere.
Dude, best part about that
Oh
whole thing,
man.
right? On the day flying out, ATM card in the airport eats my card. So I was without money for an entire month
Oh my god.
as I like waited for Citizens to cancel my card and send me out a new one, and then had to wait for the mail from Rhode Island to get to Miami, where Carnival's headquarters is, and then to get distributed to the ship. So like for a month, I was just like, I'm shit out of luck. And this
Oh
is
my
a story
god.
I like to. I don't really like to tell this story, but like I think of it often. You have a room steward still when you're working on the ship, right? There are
Okay.
guys who come and they clean your room because, of course, I don't know why, but it is. You have a guy who comes and cleans your room, which is nice, right? But
Yeah.
you're expected to tip that guy. And the guy who was me, I'm like, I'm really sorry. Like, this is what happened. I promise you that once I have the money, I will take care of you. But, like, he made a real big stink about it. And, like, it went up the chain of command. And they were almost a problem because I did not have any way to access money. And this guy, like, just did not understand that.
That is so upsetting. Like, that's my nightmare scenario, man. Like having that sort of thing happen sucks. But what's worse is then having to deal with other people who just don't want to like accept like there's nothing that you can do about it, right? Like that is a nightmare to me because what are you supposed to do? How are you supposed to help that situation?
Secondary story about losing money. Wallet fell out of my pants on the train in England. So
Oh
even though I
no.
had a train ticket already purchased, it was purchased with the credit card that was in that wallet, and could not access that.
Oh my
And
God.
like
You have so many terrible stories. What are you doing, man?
customer service in
Get your life
America,
together.
the customer is always right. Customer service in the United Kingdom, go fuck yourself. Please, I have my passport.
Oh man.
My name is there.
So yeah, so we're recording for the holiday, and things are a little weird today, and they're going to be probably a little weird for me for a while. But I'm super excited about this tomorrow. This is the independence thing that we're doing in this country. You do anything special for the holiday, man?
I honestly, I believe I'm just going up to Connecticut and playing board games all day.
I like that you're leaving Rhode Island for the 4th of July because, like, man, to me, Rhode Island is like goes all out for that holiday,
Oh, it's
and I
the
like that you're just
worst.
like, nope, none of it.
I'm out. I'm getting up the same time I get up for work and leaving the state. And even if the people that I am meeting are not ready for me, I'm gonna like hang out around the area. I'll find like a
Hmm.
nice breakfast place. I'll drink some coffee. Maybe I'll find a park and just lay down. That's a terrible idea, though. Finding a park and laying down, I'll wake up in the middle of a friggin' parade.
Yeah, knowing your luck, you'll be the head of the parade. You'll wake up and somehow it'll be the float. Like somehow you ended up on a bench that was
That was
just
like
marching down
that,
Main
like
Street.
it lifted out of the ground and
Man,
then suddenly,
when's the last time you went out to the Bristol parade by any chance?
never. I've never done it.
Oh, are you kidding me?
Can
It's
I?
insane.
I
Oh man, Bristol. For anybody that does not know, Bristol, Rhode Island is so into the 4th of July parade that their streets are literally painted red, white, and blue year round for it. They
and
just the parade route for the for the Bristol parade is just marked with a red, white, and blue line right down the middle, just year round because that's how important it is to them.
and that is
There are
why
straight up
when you
houses
ask
that are
me,
sold on the parade route for more than their value because they're on the parade route.
and that is why. Have you ever gone to the Bristol parade? Fuck no, because you go to Bristol for like regular stuff. Like I go to Bristol for other reasons, and I see that friggin' red, white, and blue road, and I'm like, no, I never want to be here when you're in use,
Mm.
ever. Like I like thank you, Bristol, Rhode Island, for marking out where I should never go on the 4th of July. Like it's just a dead zone to me because I see that, and that's similar to like Federal Hill. Federal Hill is painted in the Italian colors for the Columbus Day parade.
Right.
I'm never going to Federal Hill on Columbus Day. I used to be in a band that would march in the Columbus Day parade, and I
Hmm.
was always sick on Columbus Day for some reason.
Oops. See, I did the smart thing when I was in marching band, and when I realized that we were going to have to do stuff like that for Columbus Day and Memorial Day and things like that, what I did was I created a marching section that was bass clarinetists, and I was the only one. And because it was a large instrument, I could say, "Can I ride in the truck?" And I got to ride in the truck with a tuba player.
Oh, we had a sousaphone, so if you were the tuba player, you carried and played the sousaphone. And let me tell you about my marching band experience. Drum major was put up to a vote, and whoever the group decided based on votes would become drum major, and I won unanimously.
Oh my
So
God!
I
But you
wound up
didn't
as
actually ever take the position, did you?
yeah, I did. Because like you look at it, you look.
Oh my God! You did literally lead a parade.
Yes, I
Then
literally
you'd know
led
what to
a
do.
parade. What was that?
So then you would know what to do if you woke
If
up
I
in
wound
the,
up in a
and
parade,
you were in the
because
front of the parade. Then you're
luckily
good. You're
my
set.
life
You still got
has
like the funny
prepared
hat
me.
and the wand there. What do they carry?
I have. I think I have an outfit. I definitely have a marching outfit in my basement right now. I don't think I didn't. I had to return the hat. And that, but the funny thing is that like it made sense in retrospect because like I was really close to the drum major my sophomore and junior year. Like those two people like the sophomore year, I had to run laps the first day of marching band camp because, of course, I went to marching band camp because that's a story you've heard before. It isn't, is it? I don't think I've
No.
ever like told you any of this. Um, and I had to run laps because I spoke out of line, and like I had driven there with the drum major that year, and on the way home, she's like, "I'm really sorry about that, but you're kind of gonna be my example student." So I wanted to show them that like if you step out of line, this is what's gonna happen. I'm like, oh, okay, because I didn't really think I did anything wrong. She's like, no, you didn't, but like I punished you, and we came together, so like people know I'm not fucking around.
That's hardcore, man. I wouldn't fuck with her after that, man.
No, right? That's 100%, and like that's
Yeah,
sort of been my whole life is being the example student. Like,
yeah. See, I never had any desire to be drum major, but what I got was this position that they lovingly called king of the band. That's what I got.
well, I won
They created a
homecoming
position
king.
just for me, and I'm not sure what I was supposed to do, so I kind of just did everything. I
That's
used it as an excuse mostly to get out of class.
I feel like king of the band is. if I had if that title existed at my school, I feel like I would have also wound up with that. But mostly because like I had connections in the high school environment. So like
Yeah.
if stuff needed to get done, I was the person you called anyway.
Yeah.
But like the reason why I really say it is I got in-house suspension once, and when I told the band instructor that, he's like, "Hold on a second." And he got me out of it, but he got me out of it to rearrange all of the sheet music going back to the 1960s.
Nice. Oh
So
my
like
god.
it was a worse punishment than sitting in the in-house suspension room. I will tell you that. But at least I was busy the entire 2 days I got in-house suspended.
Why does a bunch of this music say March for the Fuhrer on it?
Yeah. Coventry High School.
So,
Wicked
Devon, how have your
anti-Semitic.
last couple of days been then, other than Zelda? Have you been doing anything else?
I've gone on adventures. I'm really like leaned into the fact that it's July 4th weekend.
Yeah, I'm trying really hard to get you to talk about something very specifically that I feel like I can't bring up on the show because of past conversations that we've had, and it'll just make me look bad.
Oh, you want me to say Baby Driver?
Yes, I do. God damn it! It took you long enough to get
Sijin,
there.
I saw it last Tuesday.
We gotta talk
I
about
saw
this movie,
it
man.
6 days ago. I didn't see it. Like, if you're asking about the last couple of days, no, I've been doing other things. I should have said Despicable Me 3. That would have, like, satisfied what you were searching for, like, adjacent enough.
That I would have been really upset.
Yeah.
Yeah, the funny part is that we have editing power over this, and we won't use it.
Oh, you will. I edit.
But, yeah.
This week's episode
and
of the
you won't.
Stay Report has two versions: the Devon edit and the Sijin edit. Which one did you download?
My edit has a narration, so everybody kind of likes mine a little bit better.
You know what, though? I'm really looking forward to, like, 20, 30 years from now when we can, like, release the definitive edit.
Yeah, and then we can rake in a bunch of money.
And then we'll do a sequel.
We'll do a sequel that nobody asked for, but everybody's kind of okay with.
Dude, we'll do a sequel that people wanted in the 80s, but now we'll do it in the 2010s because Ryan Gosling exists.
It's all that they were waiting for.
Ridley Scott
It
was
really
waiting
is
for
all that they
Ryan
were waiting
Gosling.
for.
All right, as soon as he does a
Sometime
musical,
soon, there's going to be a very handsome, very stoic human that we need to be in this role, but not yet.
one day I've seen it foretold in the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Man,
So yeah,
imagine
Baby
if,
Driver.
if they did do this back in the 80s, like, who do you think that would have been? It probably would have been a good Rob Lowe role or something like that, right? Like, get one of those guys, or even John Cusack.
I feel like John Cusack more than Rob Lowe just because of, I think Cusack and Gosling, like if we were going to break down the celebrity genus and species scale, would be in the same genus. I feel like
Okay.
Rob Lowe's in a slightly stronger genus than
Okay.
the John Cusack. But I also wonder if they would have tried to go for someone blondish. Because, like, but there weren't a lot of blonde leading men in the 80s now that I think of it.
No, that's a good point.
Like, who would it be? It wouldn't be Broderick. He's
Anthony
too
Michael Hall,
funny.
maybe?
No, he's not. I don't think he could command the emotional weight of it.
Oh, for sure. At least not then, right?
Yeah, so like,
But
it probably came out in the
I'm thinking like
90s,
John
right?
Cusack in Say Anything or Tapeheads when he's got like that slicked back kind of long hair of his that's kind of like greasy and slicked back, right? With a big trench coat on and like, can you imagine that? And Decker's gun in his hand, like that would have been actually a really good image
I think John
with some
Cusack
Ridley
is
Scott
the best.
magic thrown on top of that.
Oof, yeah, that works for me. That works for me a lot. Before he does High Fidelity, the
Yeah.
entire timeline of cinematography and cinema is the same, except between Say Anything and High Fidelity, John Cusack is in Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah, man.
Live in that
Oh,
world
man.
for 5 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. It's great.
I don't know how you did it, but you somehow brought up Baby Driver and then completely diverted me from it, which is like
Well, I was
insane
mad at
to
you,
me.
Sijin, so I did what I could. But let's talk Baby Driver, because everybody is talking about Baby Driver, so there's no possible way it could be spoiled. But spoilers, if you're excited for the film.
Yeah, I mean, there is actually a couple of good twists and turns in it, so I will say that if you are really interested in seeing it and you don't want to know anything about it, like, I actually do recommend pausing this now, going out and seeing it, and coming back in 2 hours. And I do mean just go out and watch it right now.
Yeah, go see it right now. It's just like one of those movies. Very exciting. So I'm going to wait until the 25-minute mark, and then we can start on Baby Driver.
Oh God. Okay.
Action. No,
No.
it was like
Oh
literally
man. So you
four
saw Despicable
seconds.
Me 3, huh?
Yeah, Despicable Me 3 was pretty great. We could talk about Baby Driver right now, though. It's after
Thank
the
you.
25-minute mark.
Oh my God. Here I am, like
Like, now you're
crossing
pushing
my
it
fingers,
away.
just hoping
Dude,
and praying.
you
Oh
are my
man, I
puppet
enjoyed
dance
the hell
motherfucker.
out of this movie. I like I I've always really loved Edgar Wright, as we've talked about many times on the show, but this is the first time I think I was watching a movie and it felt like it was an Edgar Wright film. Does that make any sense?
I felt like it was the least Edgar Wright of Edgar Wright's films.
Really? I
Yeah.
feel like this is the one where he had the most it showed that he had the most control because I mean he built the soundtrack, he storyboarded the stunts. This is actually he actually has had this idea for 20 years, he said, and actually did a music video almost 20 years ago now at this point, maybe closer to like 10 or 15. But he actually did a music video that was kind of like the impetus for this, and like it kind of grew kind of beyond that, and he realized he wanted to do a full length movie as in this style with the music and the driving and the stunts and all that stuff. So like there was just so much of this that felt like it was just Edgar Wright on screen. And a lot of that comes from the fact that, this is the first one that he's done without a real writing partner or studio behind him. Like, all of the movies that the Cornetto trilogy that he did with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost starring in them, like he's always had Simon Pegg right there writing along with him. And then Spaced was the same way. And then Scott Pilgrim was a really good Edgar Wright film, but it was also very clearly studio driven. Like there was a lot of choices made in that movie that were very clearly made because they were, big names that come in moments and big epic action scenes that are very over the top and stuff like that. Whereas this, a lot of the stuff is a lot more personal, right? A lot more intimate is the word I'm looking for. And like, I don't know, man, the whole movie just kind of just dripped with just his vision and his ideas. So like, I was just in love with it every minute.
So Despicable Me 3 finds Gru having a twin brother, Drew, living in the country of Fredonia. And they're going up against Trey Parker, portraying Balthazar Bratt. And Trey Parker really steals the show. I'm so sorry. I had to.
You son of a bitch.
No, but no. I understand where you're coming from. Of course, I mean, Blue Song by Mint Royale. That music video has always stuck with me, and I know it through Mighty Boosh. Like it was a added sequence, and I want to say Mighty Boosh Series 2. They included that music video because Noel Fielding and Julian Barrett are in it. Yeah. Noel Fielding is like the star of that music video that you alluded to. Baby Driver sort of being the short film of. Now, unfortunately, because I came to it from Mighty Boosh and not from Edgar Wright, or just finding it on my own, I didn't know that was Edgar Wright's music video.
Oh.
So I really kind of felt like, wow, Edgar Wright's really ripping off this music video, huh? So that was really, really distracting for me until, and here's our first big spoiler for Baby Driver. At about the 25-minute mark, they're watching television, and they show the briefest snippet of the Blue Song Mint Royale video.
Yeah. You get Noel Fielding in sunglasses
Noel
for like
Fielding
a hot
in
second.
sunglasses, and I just went, woo! And I started clapping. No one else in the theater got it. Like, I was with other people. My sister got it, obviously, because, like, that's... Mighty Boosh is a part of me and Dale's, like, friendship. Like, it's woven into the DNA. So, like, she's like, oh, my God. And I'm like, shh. Like, I acted... That was the wrong reaction to that, apparently, because nobody else got it, Dale.
No, man. That is the perfect reaction to that. That was like when I went to go see Wonder Woman with a friend of mine, Quincy, who used to do my old show with me, right? So Quincy and I are watching Wonder Woman, and there's that joke made when she puts glasses on by Patty. She goes, oh, yeah, she puts glasses on, and suddenly she's not the most beautiful woman you've ever seen, right? And Quincy and I just lost our shit. And then we realized in a full theater that we were the only two laughing at it. And Quincy, who never talks in movies because like we respect the sanctity of the theater, he turns over to me and just goes, I think that was just for you and me. So you take that to heart, man. That joke was just for you.
It wasn't even a joke, it was a reference.
Just for you.
But I gotta tell you, seeing that moment, seeing that nod to the Mint Royale video worked for me and then allowed me to get deeper into Baby Driver. And again,
Yeah,
at this point, didn't know it was Edgar Wright. Just
yeah.
like, this is a music video I've watched thousands of times because the song is kicking. I love the whole premise of the video, but whew. So yeah,
Yeah.
so that unfortunately I created a barrier that I had to get past, especially because the very first scene, it wasn't what I was expecting, right? I didn't expect that comedy. I thought it was going to be more actiony, and that's why I was excited about it. And I think that really sort of betrays why you feel like it was the most Edgar Wright film, and I felt it was the least Edgar Wright of the Edgar Wright films. And that's, I love Edgar Wright for his action and stuff, and the comedy doesn't really work for me. So seeing and that's wrong to say. Like, I love the comedy, don't get me wrong, but Hot Fuzz doesn't take off for me until it becomes a balls to the wall white knuckle action film.
So like the first hour of that movie, what are you doing?
I mean, like,
Because I love Hot Fuzz, but that movie, he sets up that movie for about a good hour, maybe even an hour and a half before it suddenly becomes a giant ass action sequence for the last 45 minutes.
well, I've now seen Hot Fuzz
But
six more
man, like,
times. So,
I mean, I get that, but also I also feel like this might be the least comedic of any of those movies. You know what I mean? Including even Scott Pilgrim. Like, there's definitely comedy in this movie for sure. Like, the first moment that you're talking about is definitely funny, right?
and
But
it was,
man,
yeah,
you know what it is there is still a lot of the slapsticky and like punny type humor that he does in those movies, but um there's no kind of deeply inlaid humor in the story. You know what I mean? There's no funny situations. There's no funny like moments that are born from the characters in any real way. Like the humor that's in Baby Driver is legitimately just like just moments of like here's a laugh line or here's a, you know what I mean? But like there's nothing funny about John Hamm in that movie. They're just, you know, like there's nothing funny even about Kevin Spacey. There's a couple of moments where he says some snappy things and kind of like they're like, I don't know what you would call them, snorters. Like there's a moment where like, you know, you laugh, but you laugh because it's Kevin Spacey delivering the line, not because of like any particular like deep story ramification, right? Unlike in things like Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead and World's End, where everything down to the situation is just dripping with humor. And I think that comes more from Simon Pegg than anything else, you know? Because if you look at the way that his kind of his punch-ups have been for like Star Trek and things like that, like I think that's Simon Pegg through and through. So this is the, you know, he's not writing with him this time around. So what you get is you get a lot more of like the one-liner jokes, but the situations and the storyline itself are just so like hardcore. Like they reminded me of French Connection, Italian Job, you know, that style of movie.
well, yeah, and I don't disagree. Like right now, Baby Driver is in my top 3 films of 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Like as it seems to be for everybody who's seen the movie, which like I'm also trying to deal with the mental gymnastics that make me my indie music syndrome okay with that. The fact that I'm not the only person who likes this film. And it's also weird because it's an Edgar Wright film and like Shaun of the Dead was one of those movies that like I liked it and no one else really liked it around me. Like I saw it with a group of people and they were like, and I'm like, no, that was brilliant. Like it was really, really good. I can't wait to see it again. And the same with Hot Fuzz. Like I saw it that first time and was like, but then I was talking about it with someone the next day and I'm like, no, it's legitimately a really good movie. And now that I know that that second act is that second half is going to happen, I want to go and I want to live in that first half more.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
that's why
yeah.
I saw it as many
Yeah, the
times as I
build makes
did.
much more sense when you know what's coming. But like the first time that you watch Hot Fuzz, it's a trip, man, because when it turns hard,
Yeah,
right?
if you hit a wall, you smash into a wall, and luckily you have enough momentum to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. So I guess you're right. Like I guess I wasn't considering that portion of it, mostly because Ant-Man, which I guess is a terrible example, but Ant-Man also had a lot of that comedy from characters and not just situations in
Mm-hmm.
it. So I thought that that was an Edgar Wright-ism in its own right.
Yeah, yeah, but then you gotta think about the situation, the context around Ant-Man, right? Like as much as they were really awesome to include a lot of his original script and to give him credit for the writing in that, there's a reason he walked away from it because he openly admitted that what you saw on screen it was in the end not his vision, right? So he that's not his film, right? So I totally get it. Like, yeah, you can see some of the Edgar Wright stuff going on in it, but once again, I think that when you're seeing a lot of the character stuff, what you're seeing is whoever the next guy is that came in. Can't remember off the top of my head who they got to come in and finish up that film. But
Alexander Payne,
but
maybe. I
yeah,
feel like
so
that's the
like
name
I
in my
feel like
head.
watching this movie, it was the first time. Honestly, it was the first time that I was watching an Edgar Wright film and thinking about him in the same way that I think about like a Robert Rodriguez or a Quentin Tarantino film, where like I was like I can see his fingers on every piece of this, on the script, on the editing, on the costuming and the choreography, like every piece of it, I felt like he definitely had a hand in, which you don't always get from movies nowadays, and you don't always get from even these guys like Scorsese and Spielberg, or are like kind of the big guys for this stuff. They know what they're doing, but they always seem to lean on the people that they know can do it, right? Like Scorsese will lean on like a Leo to be his actor because he feels like he knows how Leo works and he doesn't have to move Leonardo DiCaprio in a specific direction. He knows where Leo's going to go, right? Whereas in this, it felt like Edgar Wright was, I mean, standing behind every actor in this movie and just being like, all right, now this and now that, and go here and go there. It felt almost like looking into his brain.
Right. I mean, the other thought that I had at the end of it, it's two thoughts. The first thought was, so Edgar Wright is my Quentin Tarantino, is what I felt like, because like his first movie came out, and I sort of liked it, but other people didn't get it. His second one came out, I felt like it had more appeal. He did his sellout third picture, the Jackie Brown to Scott Pilgrim, right? Because even
Right.
though they were both proud of those and what they wanted to do, it happened. Then they went back to the well for something that like really just paid off for fans, which is weird to say about Kill Bill. And now you're at that movie that is 100% them and features a car, which is interesting because Death Proof, I feel, did not work, but Baby Driver really does work.
Yeah, well, and Death Proof is entirely a Quentin Tarantino film to the point where it doesn't really it fights you if you want to get into it. You know what I mean? Like I like Death Proof in theory, and I actually like some of the cinematography and stuff in it, but in the end, I don't think it wants me to like it. Like I think Death Proof doesn't want me to be cool with it. Like I think it is purposely abrasive. You know what I mean?
I
And
also
like,
feel
and I
like,
feel like he's been like that with
yeah,
his last couple of films. Like, I really enjoyed my time with Hateful Eight, but there was so much going on with it where I feel like every minute he was just like, "Yeah, you think you like this movie? Well, how about this? Do you like it now? How about now? Do you like it now?" And every time I said yes, he would just try and think of a different way to try and get me to not like it. But in the
interesting,
end, too bad. I actually enjoyed my time with it.
interesting story
Like,
about the Hateful
and
Eight.
that feels like the last couple of Tarantino films for me, to be entirely honest, is he's getting to like, I don't know, like grumpy in his old age, maybe. But yeah, you're totally right. Like Edgar Wright kind of falls right into that wheelhouse for us and people our age. Is like it's that guy that we've kind of just been following since the beginning of his career, and we've been seeing the cool stuff that he's been able to do. And he's the only real kind of like auteur, like on his own director that's working right now that is catering to our brand, right? Because
Exactly.
again, there are those guys out there like Scorsese's and Spielberg's and Ron Howard and stuff like that. But I don't think that they're not aiming their movies at me. They're aiming their movies at like my dad, right?
Yeah, especially like when you mention Scorsese. Every time you say Scorsese, all I can think is Silence, and I'm
Hmm.
like, Silence is a 3 hour epic about religion. And as much as I loved it, I understand why other people my age were like, it was fucking boring and I hated it.
Yeah, I mean, like it's not geared towards us. Unlike a movie like Baby Driver, where it not only did I feel like it was a really good showing of Edgar Wright's work, it's also a really good encapsulation of like what people in my wheelhouse are into right now. Like people in around me, the reason why everybody we know is talking about it the way that they are is because it captures a lot of what we like right now and what we love, some really well done practical stunts, some really good acting from like some kind of mid-level, like, still A-list celebrities. Like Jamie Foxx is no slouch, but at the end of the day, Jamie Foxx is not a guy that's making a movie every year and breaking in $100 million every time. You know what I mean? It's not like back when Will Smith was had a run of movie after movie after movie of being successful. Like as far as like the African American action star right now that can also handle drama, like Jamie Foxx has that locked down, but he's not working nearly as much like as much as some of these other A-list celebrities are that you see sometimes, you know. And then Kevin Spacey, like, oh man, every time he shows up, it's great. But he's really on this movie for like 20 minutes. Don't go to Baby Driver to see Kevin Spacey. He's great in it, but he's not the reason to see this film. In fact,
None of
and
the
then you add to that
actors.
the main actor and the main character of this movie is this 20-year-old kid that really hasn't done much of anything else as far as I can tell. You know what I mean?
He was in The Fault in Our
Like
Stars.
that also kind of really appeals to me and to people like us, I think. Right? This idea that this kid can come out of nowhere and be the main character in this crazy action film with Edgar Wright and John Hamm and John Berthon. Oh man, The Punisher, right? Right, and oh, God, there was so much good stuff in it that just definitely was just aimed right at me. Like it was a movie that felt like it was being made not just for Edgar Wright by Edgar Wright, but also for me by Edgar Wright.
Can't disagree with that. And I feel in the same way, even though I have like. And the other thing about this film is, I feel like I was in on it. Like you said, like you feel like it was made for you a little bit because like knowing about Mint Royale and the Blue Song, I don't know. Do people know that? Like, is that a thing that people are aware
I
of?
feel like people in England do. I don't think that that's a big thing over here, but I do feel like that is a big deal over there. You know what I mean? Because Mighty Boosh and stuff like that is actually still shown on TV over there. Like Noel Fielding is a huge name over there. Over here, people like you and me know it, and I'm sure a lot of our fans know him. But if I were to like step outside and ask 10 randos on the street, I don't think any of them would know who I was talking about if I mentioned it by name. You know what I mean? So like, it's one of those things where I think that it's just British enough that it's just not popular over here, but is still really huge over there. It's one of those things that we don't think about too often because we are actually super saturated with a lot of British television nowadays, but there is still a whole section of British like film and television that we just don't really like lock into over here.
100% true. And that's the thing though. But like I remember when Shaun of the Dead came out and people were like, "Oh yeah, Spaced." And I'm like, "What the hell is Spaced?" And I had to go and find it. With Baby Driver, there was no reference or anything where I was like out of the loop.
Mm-hmm.
Like even when I thought that he was just inspired by that video and not the actual director of it, I'm like, "That's very cool. That's very British." And there
Yeah,
are
yeah.
not people who know that exists, and so like I felt like I was in on it, like I felt like in on the joke and in on the story, and that was another thing that I really liked about it. And like I was in tears for most of it. It's just that like with Hot Fuzz, I'm not the kind of person who feels like I don't advocate going to see a movie more than once. I know that's a weird thing. I like rewatchability in a film, but I don't like a movie that you need to truly appreciate with more than one viewing. Like that's
Oh,
why
you mean
like
like so you mean you don't like it when a movie doesn't make sense the first only makes sense on a second viewing.
right.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like Donnie Darko is my example of that film. Like
mm,
I feel like Donnie Darko became huge when I was still working at Blockbuster Video, and everybody was like, "You need to see this movie. You need to see this movie." And then like they pinned me down. I sat down in my living room with a group of people, and we watched Donnie Darko. And they're like, "What'd you think?" And I'm like, "It's okay." And they're like, "We probably didn't get it." And I'm like, "No, I got it. I understand how movies work, and I understood what was happening there. It just really wasn't my cup of tea." And they're like, "Well, you got to see it again to really appreciate it." I'm like, "Oh no, I'm never gonna watch a Donnie Darko again." But thank you, got in my house. And the only person who stayed afterwards was Rusty, who had also never seen the film, and that was the only reason he was at my house that night, was because he's like, "Everybody keeps talking about this fucking movie, so I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it with these stupid fans, and then I'll have seen it, and I'll be done." And I remember we were outside my house. He lit up a cigarette, and he's like, "Yeah, that was pretty straightforward." And I'm like, "Yeah, it was, right? Why do people gotta watch it a million times to understand what Donnie Darko is about?" And he's like, "I don't know." And we walked away, and I've never
yeah.
seen Donnie Darko since. So I'm
Well,
not the
and
person who advocates that type of film. I'm not that type of consumption of film. That being said, I am really looking forward, as I said a week ago, to my second viewing of Baby Driver, where all of my preconceived notions are thrown out the fucking window and I can just purely enjoy it. And
yeah, yeah,
Edgar
yeah.
Wright is the only filmmaker I can think of in modern times where I really have to do that.
Well, and like and it's not that his movies don't pay off. It's not like a second viewing of his films don't pay off. Like one of the great things that him and Simon Pegg always used to do with all three of their movies was they would set up some really good foreshadowing in the first 20 minutes that in second viewing was like mind blowing, right? Like World's End does it, I think, the best out of the three of them, where he lists the pubs that they're going to go to, and then each one of the pub names that they're going to and the order in which they go actually lays out the action sequences for the rest of the movie. And it's this phenomenal thing that I didn't pick up on until the second time. That being said, I didn't require it. It wasn't required to enjoy the movie the first time I saw it, right? So like he does this really good thing with his films where like his second watches like are definitely worth it, but it's never feels like it's required viewing to a second time. If you don't ever want to watch another his movie a second time, you don't have to. You can still say that you really enjoyed that movie without having to say you sat through it 6 times. And that's where I was like thinking with Donnie Darko as you were telling that story, is I was like, I've only ever seen Donnie Darko once myself, right? But I cannot tell you how many people have tried to convince me that I need to see it again. And I like the movie. Like I actually don't mind talking about it and like waxing poetically about like time travel and like the repercussions of things and all that sort of stuff, right? Like I don't mind talking about Donnie Darko. I enjoy that film, but I also don't ever feel the need to ever watch it again. And I cannot tell you how many people have been like, no, you gotta sit down and really take it in now that you know what's going on. And I'm like, no, I don't.
Sejan, this is why we do a podcast together. This is why you're family, because that warms my heart in a way that nothing else that you could say truly does. Even the enjoying of it. Like, I'm going to be honest, I don't love Donnie Darko, but I didn't hate it. It's just that, like, it was at a time in my life where I would meet new people and be like, hi, I'm Devon Decker. And their response would be, what are you, a superhero? And I'm like, yep, we're not going to be friends, right? Because fuck Donnie Darko. That's where you got that from. You just quoted Donnie Darko to me. Maybe I'm...
Oh, man.
And that's actually not true.
So,
one of my best
Baby
friends
Driver,
in college
highly
did
recommend
that.
it. People have got to go out and see that movie and take it in and check out the soundtrack. It's up on Spotify right now, but also just grab the CD because it's just one of those really good soundtracks. Honestly, it's probably my second favorite, only to the original Guardians of the Galaxy. Awesome Mix #1. I think that like it's a really good driving soundtrack, oddly enough, right? But it's also really good to have on when you're just doing like dishes in the house.
So, question about the soundtrack. I bought the soundtrack for Hot Fuzz, expecting certain songs to be on it, and they were not.
Okay.
And with the sheer glut of music that was in Baby Driver, and I loved it. I mean, I knew every song. Like there was I also saw it with friend of the podcast Jeff, and afterwards he's like, I knew one of those songs, and I'm like, oh, I knew every single one of them. He's like, yeah, I kind of figured that, and I'm like, it was great. Like that was great. All of the music was great. So I wonder how much of the songs from the movie actually do wind up on the disc.
Supposedly, because actually this was something that I was actually worried about too, because I love the Hot Fuzz, I love the soundtrack in the movie, but I actually really don't like the soundtrack for a number of reasons, not least of which because it's missing a ton of the music that I enjoyed from the film. Also, I hate when they do that thing where they cut in lines from the movie into the soundtrack. Like, that's not why I'm buying the soundtrack, guys. I've seen the movie, I enjoy the movie, now let me listen to the music clean. But from what I've listened to on Spotify, so take this for what you will, because sometimes the stuff on Spotify doesn't always line up with reality. But what it is there are 30 tracks on the soundtrack, which is an insane amount. I believe that means it's a double disc album. There's 36 tracks in the movie itself. So apparently there's like 4 or 5 songs maybe that they couldn't get a hold of, and like one that I think was like so long, like a 10-minute song that I just don't think they would have bothered putting on the soundtrack. So what I can tell from the Spotify lists and stuff that are going around, it's 30 tracks long. So I bet it's going to have at least most of the music you want from it.
Right. No, but I'm glad that like you also felt that way about Hot Fuzz. I will admit though, in that interim period before I could own the movie, putting on the Hot Fuzz soundtrack and just listening to it, tip to tail, was great because of those quotes.
Well, and I don't mind necessarily the idea of there being quotes on tracks, right? Like Kevin Smith does a really good job with this with a lot of his films. Clerks and Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back are 2 of my favorite movie soundtracks, like of all time, right? And what he does is he puts clips from the movie on there, but they're separate tracks of their own. So like if I want to skip them, or if I'm making a mix CD later on, like I can take that music and it's still clean. The problem with the Hot Fuzz soundtrack is that there's 3 or 4 tracks where there are lines and scenes from the movie actually straight up edited into the songs. So like if I want to listen to that song, I either need to go find another version of it or deal with the fact that I'm going to get like weird lines from the movies in it. The only other soundtrack I can think of that did this to me was Austin Powers' "The Spy Who Shagged Me." Again, one of my favorite movie soundtracks of all time. But the problem is that every single track ends with 2 seconds of silence and then suddenly a line from Mike Myers or a line from Heather Graham, and I'm just like, I just want the song. I don't need the commentary.
While we discuss soundtracks that do that, Eurotrip also
Mm,
does that. And it's a little disappointing, but I really, really like. The most played song on my iTunes is Get Loose by the Salads because it's like a minute 46, right? It's a super short song.
right.
And I threw on my iPod on repeat once and like just randomly put on that song and I forgot to shut off my iPod. So that song played throughout the day, like adding 900 hits to it. And like I still love the song. Like it's one of those songs that like if I need to get pumped up, Get Loose by the Salads, such a great song. But the version on the Eurotrip soundtrack, it's the last track. So instead of just the 2 seconds, it is like a gnarly 17 seconds
Oof.
before you get. Is it off yet? No, keep rubbing it.
Oh man. Yeah. I think that sometimes I feel like movie soundtracks are slapped together in a way that I don't necessarily approve of. I think that they're not given the love and care that they should be, which is why soundtracks like the Guardians soundtrack or Baby Driver's soundtrack feel so good to listen to. Like, in addition to the fact that it's good music, it also feels like, again, like watching both of those movies, it feels like there's a love and care put into them in the way that they're curated, that like they're so good, man. They give you that warm, fuzzy feeling as you're listening to them.
While we're on the topic of soundtracks, I'd like to ask you an opinion question. That's
Sure,
all
let's
this
do it.
is. I'd like to hear from you out there. Last July, so a year ago, a film came out called Nerve
Okay.
that starred David Franco and Emma
Dave Franco.
Roberts.
Yeah, it's the
Loved
one where they get involved in the online kind of truth or
Truth or
dare
Dare.
game, right?
Yeah,
And then eventually things start to get like crazier and crazier to the point where like they suddenly are like being dared to kill each other or something, right?
basically yes. It's a great movie. It was my number one movie of July last year, and the music in that movie is fantastic. So like without even thinking about it, that night I bought the soundtrack.
Okay.
And the unfortunate thing about the soundtrack for Nerve is it's all orchestral score. None of the actual music that is in that movie that like really hit and resonated with me is on that disc. Now when you call it a soundtrack, do you feel like it could only be score? Like the Hot Fuzz soundtrack has that nice suite with all the score stuff as sort of the B-side of the album. And I
Right.
like that. And I also like that like Disney soundtracks give you all the sing-song stuff and then the B-side is the score.
Yeah,
But
if you're willing to buy the deluxe editions of all of Disney stuff, I was going to say that Frozen and Moana both have that exact setup where they give you the soundtrack and then the back half of it is the orchestral stuff. Sorry, go on.
which is fine. I like that.
Yeah.
But if you're going to call something a soundtrack, do you feel that like making it all score is correct, or do you think that that album should have been called the Nerve Score?
Yeah, I think that there's a better way to differentiate that stuff because you do have to be careful with things like that. I The same thing right now is happening with the Mondo records that they're putting out for the Netflix Marvel shows. It's phenomenal music. So don't like the one that's out right now and I own it is actually Luke Cage. It was a birthday present that was given to me, or a Christmas present, I believe, that was given to me. And it's phenomenal, but it is not the music that you hear in the show. It is not the soundtrack that you hear in the show. It is the score that you hear in the show, and it's really really good. But it's just not what you think it is when you first open it, right? And that can be disappointing. And so it's not necessarily so much that they're not correct in using that terminology. It just shows like you gotta set your audience up to know what they're getting into, or else they're going to be disappointed, right? Like you're setting your audience up for a disappointment, and that's not smart. I think that the smarter thing to do is to make sure that you put like Nerve original score, right? Like or something like that, so that you would have known that as you were buying it. I mean, is there any chance that you just bought the wrong thing? Like,
No,
was
I
there
have
one that was
checked
the
and
soundtrack
checked
and one
and
that was
checked.
labeled like score soundtrack? I don't know, or was that the only thing that was available for that
It is
movie?
the official motion picture soundtrack for Nerve.
Man, yeah, that's disappointing. That's almost as weird to me as those music inspired by
Music
albums
from
that
and
they put out.
inspired by.
I've got a
That's
whole bunch of music from is it Batman and Robin
it's
or
Batman
is it
Forever.
Armageddon?
It's
Like one of
goddamn
those movies in
Batman
that time
Forever.
period, like that late '90s, like big action epic, where half of the music on the album is not in the movie. It's all music inspired by, and it's just like what, like why is this song on here? It doesn't bring me to the film in any way. It doesn't like bring me into the movie. It doesn't remind me of a scene I like or a character that I like. All it is just cool music that happens to fit in that genre that the rest of the music of the movie was in.
Is Batman Forever, and if you go
Yeah.
to any house in America, you will find a copy of that CD. And I gotta be even more honest. Sometimes the person who lives in that house won't know that they own it.
No, no, yeah. So if you're sitting at home right now thinking, I don't own a copy of that CD, yes, you do.
You go check
Somewhere along the line, somebody lived in your house and they left it in the walls. If you don't think that you own it, it's around somewhere.
because it was so prevalent. When I see copies of Batman Forever at like Goodwill, I'm like, how did you get here? How did you escape? It
Yeah,
was
man. But yeah, like half of that CD is just music that wasn't in the movie in any way. It's just
almost
like, hey, this music kind of sounds like Kiss from a Rose. So here it is.
almost
Um,
all of that CD is inspired by, because there's only like 3 songs in that movie, but like they want. I mean, Batman Forever. Like I don't think we have the time to dive into it right now. Is really a marketing exercise on how not to market a movie, because they put merchandising in the forefront for Batman Forever,
mhm,
and that fucked them when the movie came out. But it's why everybody owns a copy of that CD, and they definitely made their ducats. But
mhm.
like, I had a Batman Forever hat. I had all the action figures. I hadn't seen the movie yet, and I saw the movie, and I'm like, oh, I hate myself.
You know what? You know the one that I'm actually thinking of right now is a lot of the music on the Suicide Squad soundtrack, I believe, or at least two or three tracks are because I was listening to that before seeing the movie because to be entirely honest, 21 Pilots and Heathens was just a really hot song last summer and I really enjoyed it. And you know, Spotify, why not listen to the rest of the soundtrack too, right? So I'd listen to the soundtrack and I was waiting for like two or three songs that I knew were on the soundtrack to show up in that movie, and then they never did. And there was just a moment of just like, oh, like I thought that'd be a really cool moment when this song plays, and it just never did.
To be fair, a lot of the music in Suicide Squad is not really a conversation you want to have. Because oh, let's use Without Me by Eminem, and then when it gets to like the one lyric that is super related to this film, let's cut that lyric
Yeah.
and jump
Well,
to the
and I'm super pissed at
chorus.
them for having the nerve to use "You Don't Own Me" for Harley Quinn's intro, which is a fantastic intro for a Harley Quinn character, but not that version of her. Because if that's the context that you want to give me Harley Quinn in, then don't give me a Harley Quinn that the entire time caters to the Joker, right? Like if you're gonna use that song in her introduction, like then show me her deciding to strike out. Oh my God, yes, no. I think you and I are both on the same page as far as the music for Suicide
I
Squad.
think I, and the entire world are on the same page as far as the music for Suicide Squad. Hey, you remember how Suicide Squad had like a 45-minute tape of MTV in the beginning and then became a movie?
Yeah. I said it before and I'll say it again. Suicide Squad is a 10 out of 10 soundtrack and a 5 out of 10 film for me.
Wow. That's like an 11 out of 10 soundtrack and maybe a 3. That's rude. I'm just being mean to Suicide Squad because I can. And If you're a subscriber on iTunes, you can hear more about our feelings on Marvel vs. DC in our very special episode released last Thursday.
Yeah,
They don't go on YouTube.
we were having technical issues and we were hot and sweaty, but man, we got that thing out. We promised we would get it out in June, and we did.
Dude, it's like a weight off my shoulders. Like, this has been the most fun I've had recording a Say Report in a long time.
Yeah.
Because I'm not thinking about that inevitable Marvel vs. DC episode.
Well, and for a little preview, it almost killed you. Anybody interested in this should go back and listen to that. Like the amount of information that Devon got together and how he got it together, it almost killed him.
Yeah, that's 100% true. I'm
and
not
I
even.
think you
He's
can hear
not
it in your
being
voice throughout the
hyperbolic.
entire recording.
Good. I'm glad you could hear it because I'm like, I hope he knows. Like it was like it's also sort of like a test on like, is your friend depressed? Listen to how my timbre is that entire episode. If you have a friend who's talking like that, maybe give him some literature. I don't know. Do you have anything else to talk about, Sejan?
Oh, I've got tons of things to talk about, but we've also got tons of more episodes to record in our life. So I think today, no.
Okay, good. Neither do I. Go see Baby Driver. I'm going to go see it a second time. It's a great film. It really is a great film. Go watch the Mint Royal Blue Song. It's also awesome. It is. Like, all this praise from it, like, the animal hindbrain of me is like, oh, but why? Why does everybody have to like this movie? But also, if everybody likes this movie, we'll probably get more.
Yeah, it definitely feels like the kind of movie where I don't know if Wright will ever make a sequel to this one, but it'll definitely encourage people to let him make another one like it. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see what his follow-up's going to be after this.
Yeah, same way I was after Shaun of the Dead, and I was not disappointed. Yeah. Until next time, I am Devon Decker. You can find me on Twitter at DevonDDecker.
I'm Sejan Sarowick. You can find me on Twitter at Siege versus the World.
Remember to rate and review us on iTunes because we want to hear from you. And you can also tweet us directly at The Say Report. Without further ado, William, take us home.
Thank you for listening to The Say Report with your host Devon Decker and Sejan Sarowick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report. And you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.